think you should.
Welcome to this week's episode of Whoscussion, guys. We're going to be doing the last two stories of classic Who. Man, what a hell of a swan song.
Well, is the TV movie considered classic Who?
Okay, fine, all right. We're going to do the last.
Are we going to do the TV movie?
We've already done the TV movie,
but we could do it again.
We're trying to push away the inevitable.
We were going to do, the Seventh Doctor novels, but then we realised that we can't do novels.
Yeah, we can't do novels. We actually don't have the time. And even if, YouTube was our only job, we wouldn't have the time.
I don't know. If YouTube was our only job, I think we could.
We're probably good.
We could do, audiobooks of our own design for that.
Oh, man, I'm keen. And if Big Finish keeps up this adaptation range. Anyway, just before, guys, we carry on, that you just heard is the late Crow joining us.
Hello.
Late Crow, welcome back. It's been a while. What was the last story you did with us, actually?
It was Peter Davison's swan song.
Caves of Andra, awesome. Yes. Oh my gosh, that was whoa, that's been a very long time. Welcome back. I'm so glad to have you back. I understand you've been busy with some epic stuff in your life. And we'll drop a link to his works in the description there, guys.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Of course, we're going to be covering The Curse of Fenric, and there's actually a "the" at the beginning of it this time, which is good.
Yes.
I've been going over some of our earlier Whoscussions to edit them into audio only, and the amount of times I say "the" when there isn't it's quite amazing. And we're going to be obviously doing the final Doctor Who story for the 1963 to 89 run, Survival. So, The Curse of Fenric, I'm going to take us away. The Curse of Fenric follows the trend. Actually, I'll get into that at the end of this. The Doctor has landed in World War II. He's landed on the British front, and he's at a Home Guard office. And he walks in like he owns the place. This is the first instance, I think, of what would become the psychic paper, where the Doctor hands off a note that says the Prime Minister said he's allowed to be there. And it's interesting that this happens because something very similar is going to be happening in Part B. So 7 is sort of like the genesis of the psychic paper. So just imagine Davros, and he's like, "You did it, Doctor, the genesis of the psychic paper." Ace and the Doctor have come to see this machine, this computation device, that isn't the Enigma machine. What was it called? It was called something else, but it wasn't the Enigma machine.
No, it was something
called Ultima.
The Ultima machine.
Yeah.
Because they were like, we can't take somebody's actual thing away from them.
Yeah, pretty much. So they've developed a fictional Enigma machine.
Yes, called the Ultima machine. The Doctor and Ace really hit it off with the professor that's there. What was his name again? Is it? Hang on a second.
Dr. Judson?
Yeah, Dr. Judson. And what's really interesting about Dr. Judson is he has a nurse with him, a nurse Crane, and she's played by Anne Reid. And later on in the story, that's going to become really ironic. And it's going to be great. So the Doctor gets Ace a tour of the base. Ace finds this baby. She seems to hit it off with this baby, and she's like, "Hey, what's a baby doing in this military establishment?" And we basically come to understand that the child's mother can't really find any lodgings for the baby. And Ace is all full of barrel of giggles around this child until the mother of the said child says her name is Audrey. And Ace doesn't take well to that. And
that's my mother's name.
She's like, that's my mother's
Ace.
name.
Yes, indeed it is.
She's like, yes, your mother's name, and it's World War II. I'm not the Seventh Doctor, you might say. Ace. So Ace becomes real sort of giddy around this child, and that plays out throughout the entire story. The Doctor and Ace end up going to this church where there's this priest who's getting told off by this lady. What was her name again?
Hardecker, something like that.
Yes, Miss Hardecker. She's a bit of a hard actor to follow. She's having a. I'm disappointed in myself, guys. More disappointed than I'm going to be next week. So, the doctor sees Miss Hardecker giving this priest a hard time, and it turns out this priest is really struggling to keep his faith in God, because he's like, yo, World War II is disgusting. There can't be a God.
Well, I mean, there's also World War One, and they did some even worse things then.
Yeah,
so,
they did some stuff that became illegal after that war. So, so that's quite interesting that he's like losing faith now. But I suppose maybe because the wireless wasn't a thing at the time, it wasn't as well as widely known about the atrocities.
But it was also that in World War II, Britain got a lot more hammered by
yes, they did. And the priest's faith is waning because England is also the one dropping bombs on kids. And he's like, we're carpet bombing them just as much as they're doing it to us. Does that make us in the right? And the doctor's like, I want to have some real good philosophical conversations with you, but I need to stop a literal Satan from coming. So I got to go, bro. Yeah. And it's so sad because the story has like other gods in it, and there's a guy trying to keep faith in his god, and I'm like, I think this is handled a lot better than Russell's sort of like philosophical religious questions are.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting that I've found that people who are actually religious that worked on Doctor Who, like Barry Letts, Malcolm Hulke, handled the whole there isn't a Jehovah in the Whoniverse a lot better than actual atheists did.
Yeah.
It's really, really strange. But the Doctor is putting Ace in situations where she needs to figure stuff out. Even though the Doctor already knows what's going on. He knows exactly what's going to happen. He's making every single play before it happens. But he wants Ace to figure it out. And there's a lot of training Ace to be better in the story. And the story is really Ace's story, where the Doctor is basically playing out what Davros says about him in Stolen Earth. You weaponize people. Yes. And he is weaponizing Ace. As the story plays out, Ace is used in so many different ways. Ace's sort of exploration of her own sexuality is explored in the story, and the Doctor weaponizes even that. And it's almost uncomfortable because the Doctor, for lack of a better term, is evil in the story. At least that's what my takeaway was here. I felt
he's more like anti-hero.
Yeah. I suppose he is definitely more anti-hero.
He is trying to stop the ultimate evil from coming back to this world, but he's doing it in a kind of evil way.
Yeah. Yes, he is. But he's trying to make Ace stronger. And he's genuinely sees himself as a father figure for her. And it's interesting because I wonder if this is the same sort of stuff he was going to start putting Susan through. Like one was a bit of a grumpy sod, and I'm wondering if like she hadn't have fallen for David, would one have gone around to weaponizing Susan?
No, I think he's more keen on doing it to human beings.
Yeah, he is. It's like what was that story where 8 is told that he sees humans as a memento mori.
I can't remember.
To remind him of his own mortality, to feel human through other people's death. It's so, man, Big Finish, you're awesome. Classic Who, awesome. So the Doctor throughout the story is helping Ace to try and work things out, getting Ace, leaving Ace to work things out. Ace figures out that these ancient Norwegian runes are actually a computer code. Ace gives the computer code and deciphers it to Dr. Judson, and the Doctor's like, Ace, I want you to tell me you didn't just tell Dr. Judson that there was a computer code. Well, I can't tell you that because I just told him that was a computer code. He's like, that's great. That's the opposite of what I wanted to happen, but that's okay. I've got an alternative plan that I'll start doing. And Ace throughout the story. Oh, sorry, you first.
Does that a couple of times in the story.
Yeah.
Doctor didn't want someone in particular to figure something out, but Ace being too smart and wanting to show off is like, hey, I figured this thing out.
Yeah. And the Doctor's like, okay, this is awesome. My own plan is backfiring in my face right now. That's great.
Like, maybe I shouldn't have helped you become more intelligent. You're ruining my plans.
Yeah, and it's quite good because we know from Ace's first story, Dragonfire, which actually plays into this plot, that she's a sharp cookie. But Ace ends up sort of becoming vulnerable a bit in the story as well, especially to do with the exploration of herself as a person. And that really opens her up for hits from the Doctor. And the Doctor uses this moment inevitably to overcome Fenric, which is this sort of god tier entity. And Fenric's interesting because he's a time manipulator as well. He's the one that ended up sending Ace to Dragonworld, we find out. And Fenric possesses Dr. Judson, then goes on to take over Captain Sorin, who is the leader of this Russian unit that's turned up to take the Enigma machine that England was planning to use to destroy the Kremlin. Whoa. I was like, JNT... Was
that the intention?
Yeah, that was the intention. Is they were gonna let the Russians steal it, take it back to the Kremlin, and then it was gonna
poison. Yeah,
I remember. And it was gonna take out the Kremlin. And I was like, that's intense to put in your story, JNT. Like, whoa. JNT's like, print it. Let's get this done. We've been put on hiatus anyway, so whatever. Not like BBC can cancel us. So that was really heavy, and it really plays into what the priest was saying about, like, you know, are we really the good guys?
Yeah.
And so a lot of that plays into this, and that's really echoes the Doctor's behavior, not just in the story, but the Doctor's behavior since the beginning of season 25. You know, is he the good guy? And I think this really shows that, like, the Doctor is doing what he needs to do, and it's really like a case of, like Lennon said after Red October, the ends must justify the means, and I think that's the way the Doctor sees it. And it's interesting that Fenric's used his power to take the last surviving life form from Earth, which was a creature known as the Ancient One, and brings it back to the 11th century and uses it to create the curse so that he can be brought out. He creates basically this folklore that will make him immortal. And the Doctor's already prepared for this, but he wants Ace to sort of, you know, take the final shot. But it ends up being the Ancient One, and the Ancient One ends up poisoning the vessel in which Fenric has taken, and basically sending Fenric back to sleep after being woken up from these inscriptions in this church. So Fenric tries to turn Ace against the Doctor by revealing that the Doctor had forcibly made Ace fall in love with her mum as a baby. Which is so intense. Like, the Doctor is so intense in this incarnation. And Big Finish picks it up as sort of the novels. It's just like, he is scary, genuinely frightening. And he's definitely weaponizing Ace. And Ace still doesn't falter. And the Doctor's like, dang, I need her to falter so that the Ancient One can make this final blow and kill Fenric. So he says to Ace that she's meaningless and she's just some stupid thing that's traveling around with the Doctor. Which is something that Tom Baker did to help get, Sarah Jane through the final ordeal in the Ark in Space. but it's also something that happens in the future with Matt Smith, which he uses to kill the Naimon that's in that virtual reality simulation. What was that called? The God Complex. So it's really interesting that that things from not only the past but the future are sort of echoed within the story, and I think the story is handled very well. I think it's well executed, well acted, well written, and don't mess with the Seventh Doctor, is basically what you get from this one. And Ace has come to terms with her hatred for her mother. I'm going to pass it over to the Late Crow. Late Crow, thoughts on the Curse of Fenric? The Late Crow? Hello?
Alrighty.
Alright, so Late Crow, take us away. What are your thoughts on the Curse of Fenric?
Right, well, 7 is my favourite Doctor and Ace is my favourite companion, so...
Heck yeah.
But no, I loved the story. It was definitely... I was looking at the story and just going, so many elements in the story is better than the versions that New Who have tried to do. Like the herbivores in this are what Vampires in Venice should have been.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because Anne Reid, right, actually played the Plasmavore in Smith and Jones.
Yes, she did.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm like, Russell, vampires are already a thing. How did you screw that up?
Yeah, but the thing is that these aren't vampires either. They're
herbivores.
They're herbivores.
The
thing is about them in particular is that they are an actual human evolution that happens in that alternate reality that Fenric creates by doing this.
Yeah.
If he's not stopped by the end result of that universe.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a loop there, but that's just herbivores in this. So realistically, after the Doctor seals this loop, herbivores don't exist in our universe. So you
can we
still say that plasmavores are still there.
Yeah, plasmavores using a straw. God, I hate New Who so much sometimes.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Yeah,
but to be honest, the fact that everyone in this who was made herbivore had to hold their hands out like they were trying to cradle something, because their big long nails were not glued on properly, and if they touched anything they'd fall off.
Yeah,
that was a bit ridiculous as well, honestly.
Yeah, but I still loved their design, and
the design was absolutely fantastic.
The girls being the fruits of temptation for the priest.
Yeah.
Whoa. That's heavy, man. That is heavy.
Yeah, I mean his whole arc is very interesting as well, where he gains his faith back, but then they're just like, no, you don't actually have that faith, and he's like, oh right, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, yeah, I stopped believing in God a while ago. So all right, cool, kill me.
I think honestly that was mainly that he had done what Ace had told him and had faith in her instead of his god.
Right.
But then even that faltered as well. So yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff to this. The herbivores being also the fact that they are repelled by people's faith due to the psychic barrier that it creates, and the idea that,
which reminds me of the Naimons.
Yeah, the idea that that Bram Stoker originally met one of these herbivores, and that's where Dracula comes from as well. Is also kind of silly, but it's fun to think that as well. But yeah, the herbivores themselves are an interesting idea, where they're psychic, which obviously plays into the latent human psychic ability that is told of in later episodes. But the fact that they start consuming blood, and that they sit in the water because salt has a similar salt content. Sorry, the seawater has a similar salt content to blood, is also interesting. But yeah, they absolutely the fact that there were vampires in Venice, and they had a similar design going on for them, where the girls had the sharp teeth, and they were female, and the females were all the ones that looked human but were vampire. That's the only thing that can really be taken away from Fenric, is that only the females didn't like become like crazy like squid monsters whenever they were turned. It was really, really funny. So yeah, that's definitely where they got Vampires of Venice from. But it's really sad that they didn't just say that Fenric was back. Like, come on.
Oh, how cool would that have been? Or just like have just vampires, having them to be those stupid fish, like terrible, crappy CGI fish ape monsters. Like,
yeah,
what a blow to an otherwise great season, man.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing is that like the like algae and clustered things on all the heads and stuff, and even in a practical effect, that always looked tacky to me. Even when it was like, even when it's well done.
Well, even the ancient one.
Yeah, even the ancient one. Even like
wow.
I'm even talking like episode 2 of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah,
that
barnacle look.
Yeah, the barnacle look. It always seems tacky when it's CGI or practical. It never seems right to me. It's not like it's not like a feeling. It just doesn't look right. Like, I don't know, but yeah. So it's nice that they would have moved away from that and tried to go with something else. But the fact that they went with the creepy fish people instead of just saying the cracks in time let Fenric out, that would have been way more interesting, you know, like
or like an ancient one came out, like
like a different separate ancient one came out, like that would have made way more sense as well, or even just that it managed to crack into the separate timeline that Fenric had created, you know.
Oh wow, man! I like how we're just this good. It's like how many times we've fixed the Star Wars prequel and made them better. But but yeah, so like Crow, what are some moments that really stand out for you as a fan of the show in the context of the Curse of Fenric?
Ooh, the stories we're doing today had so many good moments, just really
Right?
good stories. But definitely for me, the biggest standout moment was just the moment at the end where the Doctor just brutally cuts down Ace to destroy her faith in him. That was brutal.
Yeah.
Well, I felt it was brutal anyway.
Oh yeah, absolutely brutal.
That was rough.
Yeah, it's a lot better
Sorry, Ace, you're actually useless to me. Get out of here.
Yeah, it was. Also, I do get what you mean about. I think Jonathan Nathan Turner was just like, we're getting on hiatus. Just throw all the dark themes in.
Yeah, right.
Just get this thing done. It was great. Loved it.
Right. Okay. Well, has anybody else got anything to say before we move on to survival?
So about Fenric in particular, actually. So he's basically Kronos from the Greek mythology, where he is the chaos before the creation of the universe, right? I'm guessing that Fenric, the name Fenric, also comes from that Norse mythology aspect.
The never dying wolf.
Yeah, Fenrir, the one that eats the world. Is that the one? Yeah. So it's a couple of tie-ins there. It's very interesting, but he talks about the Doctor talks about him being a great old one as well, which means he's also along the pantheon of Yog-Sothoth and
oh no way! So he's related to the Great Intelligence.
Yeah, and he'll be related to the Great Intelligence, all those other ones as well. So the great evils that were around before the universe was put into play. Well, long before the universe was created, but also long before it was separated from when it was created. When causality was created, thanks to Rassilon and his golden undies.
His golden undies.
Yeah.
May they rest in peace.
So it's very interesting that they still have they've decided to say that Fenric is the greatest and most evil of them all, obviously, by stating this. But it means that he's among many. But later on, once we get to it, we'll get to that episode in a few weeks. Is Satan's Pit? Satan is also one of those. And I would say in that way then that when the Doctor is cussing him out, he's basically saying, no, I've actually fought the great evils of the universe. Like literally your big bad daddy and the person that we actually took Satan from, which is Set.
Yeah.
So come on Come at me.
I actually destroyed Set, and not to mention I defeated a whole bunch of gods that treat living mortals as playthings. You're nothing to me, big giant
even
CGI monster.
You know, the normal gods like Ragnarok and Guardians, you know, and as well as actual like proper demons, you know, like Fenric and Sagoth and all that pantheon, you know.
Yeah, like that big red scary CGI monster is like he's babies first, like, you know.
He really is.
His easy bake oven version of demons, like.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, I guess, it's funny though when you think about it. That means that there's a lot of episodes that draw out of Curse of Fenric in the future. You know, Vampires of Venice, the Pit,
just the God Complex.
Hemivores and plasmivores sort of deal, you know, with Anne being in both episodes.
Yeah.
There's a lot to take out of this, and it's simply because it's packed full of stuff. It's packed full of great ideas that by themselves could become great stories. Like if the Doctor ever got lost, got trapped in the timeline where Fenric had created these hemivores, that would be pretty intense. Or just if any other Time Lord found themselves there, they would probably be like, vampires.
Yeah.
I'm trying to kill them.
Oh man, I can't wait for us to get into the monthly range of Big Finish, because 6 versus vampires, dude. 6 versus vampires is brutal.
8 versus vampires, come on.
Oh yeah, right.
Van Helsing.
I still can't get over that. Have you read the 8 Doctors by any chance for that, Crow?
No, I've started it, but never got around to finishing.
Okay, there is a scene where the 8 ends up in E-Space, and he meets Romana, and he's like, "Oh, hey, who are you?" She's like, "I'm Romana, and you're the Doctor." And he's like, "Yeah, but okay, so we're friends." And she's like, "Oh, the whole amnesia thing, sweet, I get it." And the 8th Doctor, somehow he knows, just somehow in his Time Lord DNA, he knows how to fight vampires, and he starts doing tripple somersaults and cutting off vampire heads with an axe. And I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever.
Oh, that's great.
It's like,
it's even great because the Van Helsing movie where Van Helsing is also lost his memory. So yeah, actually, there you go. Hugh Jackman could play 8 in a vampire movie.
in a vampire movie. There we go.
That would actually be amazing. Hugh Jackman, you do it. You play 8.
Done.
One of the older 8s.
Yeah, just before he became John Hurt 8.
Exactly.
Yeah, turned back into McGann, then into John Hurt. Well, I suppose that about wraps it up for the Curse of Fenric, guys. This for me is a must watch. It's a great character piece. It's interesting to see the Doctor in a way you wouldn't normally see him, especially in New Who, where he's lovey-dovey. You have to see this, guys. I thoroughly suggest this. And with that, we're going to go into the last story for the original televised run from 1963 to 89, Survival. Harriet Skelly, take us away.
All right. So, ending on a high note, it's a master story. Yes. And it's not only that. It's also got just some crazy stuff going on.
Legitimately crazy.
Yeah, animatronic cats that for some reason have wolf noises. I don't know, but hey. So, good old Ace wants to go back home, and the Doctor, of course, is willing because of the things that he's kind of done to her in recent times. They go back to Perivale, the suburbs of northwest London, and have just come to hang out. Basically, Ace wants to see how all her mates are doing. Turns out that most of them are missing, the ones that haven't moved on in life, and she's feeling a bit down on this. Meanwhile, the Doctor's interested in the fact that there's some stray cats around that are doing weird things, and meets up with this survival expert. He's like a martial arts teacher. And he's basically every Southern American, basically. I mean, it seems like what they were going for that. Yeah, basically just think, if you've watched The Punisher recently, think think of like a veteran from that, but not nearly as crazy. Just still all about the guns and survival stuff. It's really weird, but he's also like later on he has a bit of a turn, which is very interesting. But anyway, so in the Doctor investigating these cats, he finds out that there's something really weird going on, and basically ends up with Ace and this drill sergeant, I guess is really his title, as well as some other people, particularly Ace's friend and some of the guys from the course, from the training sessions. And cheetahs come out of nowhere, human cheetahs.
Human cheetahs.
And teleport them to another world, which has a red sky and a red sun. Yeah. It's pretty crazy. So they're there and not really sure what's going on, but the master comes out of nowhere and greets the Doctor. Is like, "Hey, it's me. Come on. Who else would have been? Come on." Yeah, it's pretty great. Anthony Ainley's master in this is utterly superb.
And right.
He plays. It's because Anthony Ainley's master is normally like, I wouldn't say it's over the top, but it's very like Shakespearean. A lot of his
I agree.
His acting has been, which is fantastic. It suits the master very well. And in this, he not only brings that to the table, but he also brings, because of the fact that he's been transformed by this planet into one of these cheetah people. He's become more like even more monstrous in his acts, where he's actually willing. He actually wants to like stab and viscerally murder the Doctor. That's what he wants. But of course, he also wants to get out of this place because he doesn't want to be turned into a cat person, which is fair.
Yeah, fair call.
Yeah, they look after
Mrs. Dad's body desecrated even further.
Wow.
It's now a cat. Sorry, Nissa.
Anyway, so while they're there in this in this world, they find out that anyone who's there, human-wise, if they survive long enough, they'll become these cheetah people who are connected to the planet, like in a sort of a psychokinetic way. Whenever they fight with each other, the planet starts to destroy itself, basically. And they find out that the only way, the way that this power seems to work for them is also allows them to teleport, but only if they're going to bring something with them, they can only do it if they're going home. So like they can teleport to a planet, find prey, and then the only way they can teleport that prey is if they're teleporting it home. So the Doctor, the Doctor tells Ace this, but of course the Master's overhearing this and captures one of the people who is turning into a cheetah called Midge, and basically lassos him around his neck and rides him home.
That's actually what happened. It's so good. I want somebody to tumble a fan out there right now.
Yeah, that's actually what happened. So then, of course, as expected in a Doctor Who story, Ace is the one who is turning otherwise, and they use her want to get home to teleport home. And the Doctor is obviously not particularly happy about this, because if she teleports, she'll always have part of the cheetah planet in her from now on. Not particularly happy about that. But of course, during all of that stuff, Ace has met up with Bernie Summerfield. I mean Kara from who's a cheetah person. He does play Bernie Summerfield.
It is Bernie Summerfield. It's so good.
Yeah. But anyway, she's playing Kara, who's one of the cheetah people who was trying to chase her. But when Ace starts to turn, she becomes sisters with her in some way, and starts to basically try to teach her how to be a cheetah person. Wants to help her become more cheetah. But anyway, they get out of the planet using Ace, so she thinks she's lost her forever. That sort of stuff. turns out when they get back, the Master's doing his devious stuff, using Midge to try and take over this, to hypnotize and take over this survival class that they were doing, and is going to use them to try and kill the Doctor. Once the Doctor gets back, they have a bit of a thing, basically trying to chase each other down. They find each other out on the field with motorcycles, of course, because it's
of course, it's so JNT, man.
Yeah, and instead of the Doctor letting Ace contribute and fight, because if she fights, she'll become a cheater, he hops on the motorcycle, and they ride two motorcycles into each other, and they explode in a fantastic JNT fashion. And they both go flying, only killing Midge and not killing the Doctor, but we don't know that initially. As Ace picks up his hat and his cane and is wearing them around, being real sad about it. Kara appears and saves her from the rest of the band of dudes. Meanwhile, the Master's trying to ditch. The Doctor chases her after him, manages to get after him eventually, and they teleport back to the Cheetah planet, where the Doctor starts to turn into this cheetah person as well, and is going to kill him. But
I love that turn as well, because like Sylvester really gives it his all, and he's like, "I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you dead."
Yeah, and then he manages to pull it off and teleport back, and then the cheetah planet finally destroys itself because two cheetahs were fighting, the Master and the Doctor, and there it is. That's the end of the episode, basically. Good old Doctor says to Ace, the planet's destroyed now, so you're not going to become a full cheetah, but it will forever live inside you. And that's why you kind of want to run through fields all of a sudden, but, it's all right. We all want to do that sometimes.
Yeah. Come on, Ace. Somewhere out there in the universe.
Come on, Ace. I'm going to lose you somewhere. Bernie Summerfield and stuff, and then I'm going to turn. It's going to be great.
It's going to be great. And then I'm going to fight a time war, I think. I hope.
I'm probably going to fight one. I really thought it was going to come sooner. That's why I was trying.
Yeah. Let's not talk about that. I was training you to become a Time Lord warrior, but all good. All right. Yeah.
Survival. It was a time.
I love when like the Doctor wants that drill sergeant to bugger off, so he uses contact to knock him out. He's like, just go away, contact. Gee. And I'm like, whoa. Like, he is just using that whenever he wants. It's so brutal. Because, like, before 7, contact was used, like, in proper desperation. But 7 just uses it whenever he wants to get out of doing something he doesn't really want to do or he needs to do. He's like, go away, contact.
He basically just, he uses it as a psychic weapon, basically.
Yeah.
Well, I need to get out of this, and I cannot be bothered talking my way out of it. Contact.
Oh. Right, that's so good. It's one of my favorite things that happens with 7. Like, because going back over it, it's over Classic Who, I've really noticed a lot more this time around, and noticing that 7 has weaponized an actual emergency function of his biology as a weapon.
It's not necessarily an emergency thing. It's just something normally that they use for communication or for high speed up to speeding.
Yeah, I love that. What do you know? Okay, cool. I really don't want to be in a briefing, so I'm real glad you contacted that to me.
Yeah, instead of just casually just tapping someone on the head just to knock them out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Basically brain frying people whenever he feels like it.
I could so imagine like pimply time teens just being all like contacting each other like sex messages, like hey, hey, this is.
Instead of passing notes in class, they just reach over and touch each other instead.
Yeah, because what have I told you about using contact in my class? Hey, what are you going to do, teach?
What are you passing over here? Right, you're gonna contact that to me right now. I'm gonna read it out loud.
Do you want to contact that to the rest of the class, huh? imagine Barusa as first incarnation. He regenerates because, like, he's just getting contact from all the students. Ah! I didn't mean literally. Ah! Oh, I think we just killed the teacher. It's alright, he regenerates.
That's alright, he's got plenty of regeneration.
Yeah, I hope one of them's not an evil president. Yeah, I hope that too.
Everyone's 7th incarnation is evil. We know that.
We all know that. Especially mine. Shut up, 11. We haven't covered you yet. Alrighty. The Late Crow, what are your thoughts on survival?
Yeah, as I said earlier, these stories are just fantastic. Yeah, 7 is... I love that in this story and also the one before, and actually a lot of the stories, he just owns the place without really doing anything, and he just drops everything around him. He just looks at them and is like, oh, okay, you obviously belong here, my bad. Or just like when he walks out the shop and just like, didn't pay for anything and no one really tries to stop him. Just like... I love 7. I love the story. Anthony Ainley is the best master to date, still. Yeah, and again, what you said, that climax with the fighting between the Master and the Doctor, that was some amazing stuff on part of Ainley and McCoy there. That was some really good stuff.
It's like it was always coming to this moment. Like that's what their relationship was gonna be, the penultimate end. And 7's like, nah, man, I don't want to do this. Like, it's so good. It's like the final match. Everybody's there. Everybody's bought front row tickets, and one of the contestants pulls out because he just doesn't have the heart.
Yeah, so good. So good. And the Master, yeah, just that moment when he stabs Kara, that's like, oh, whoa, calm down.
Oh yeah, that was absolutely brutal. Like that's JNT right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so much.
Like normally he would just, like have a sword fight or something, or like try to hypnotize you or something, but nah, straight up just stab.
And she's like, I'm turning back into Bernice Summerfield. I mean, Kara. I'm the only companion that ever slept with the Doctor.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, what can I say about the story beyond? It's fantastic and kind of a really good story to end the classic run on, really.
I agree. If they had to go out, I'm glad they chose this story. And McCoy's little ditty at the end. Somewhere out there, there's people made of smoke. And somewhere, the tea is on. Come on, Ace, let's go.
So bittersweet.
Yeah. Is that your subtle hint you wouldn't put the kettle on? Ace, the TARDIS can just make me tea instantly. I was joking. Oh.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Oh, man.
But yeah, that's the end of Classic Who. I guess we should say a few words.
Yeah, I don't want to do New Who. Is that words I'm allowed to say? And that's when Whoscussion ended, episode 101. 101 Dalmatians. Alright.
I mean, we've still got all of 8 Doctor on to
Oh, yeah.
So we can't finish Whoscussion.
Yeah, is that us part B only? No,
I'm afraid not. We've got to do it.
We've got to do it. And like, there are some stories in New Who that I like, but I have to emphasize some. And I'm not being like a bum. Like, I know it sounds like I am every Whoscussion I'm bashing New Who. It's just, I don't know. I just don't think it has sort of,
you think about
the
it.
strength.
Think about it like this. We've just spent 2 years going over...
Actually 2 years.
Going over proper original Who, and pretty much every single time we've had an episode, it's been it's been longer. It's had a lot more oomph to it. There's been crazy things happen. Doctors are willing to do things. Actually, we haven't had weak plot devices, and we haven't had comic-y like gimmicky things happen. We haven't had what else is there that I can
the time there was a Wile E. Coyote sound effect literally used in the episode.
We haven't had cartoon things happen. We haven't been let down by anniversary specials.
Well, you say that, but
we haven't. There's just there's been a certain feeling, and I imagine that anybody who grew up with Doctor Who would have the same feeling. Is there's the New Who Doctors and the stories that have been given don't feel the same. Not only just because they're not nearly as long and they don't have the same gravity to them, but also just that there's some spark of it that disappeared when it became about not necessarily not about the Doctor, but when it became more about like this family element, particularly in the early episodes of
Do you think Mary Woodhouse is to blame here?
No, absolutely not. It's not that. It's that they decided to change the demographic basically of it, and it's updating it with the times, which is also fair, but it could have changed with the times as well as kept the not necessarily the feel of it, but the writing amount, the quality of writing at least.
Yeah, the quality of writing is my major complaint. I want Terrence Dicks to be involved in the show again, and that's not like wishful thinking because he still writes.
Exactly, because like the episodes that we enjoy the most from New Who either come from a place where the writer has had time away from Doctor Who, or only just come on, like when Moffat's original stuff. Was fantastic. When RTD went away and came back and did some stuff. It's when he did Midnight as well. So it's never one particular person who ruined the show. Or that we can blame for it. We like to blame. We like to point fingers at people for doing bad things, But it's never just their fault because it's a team of people who create Doctor Who, and BBC hold the keys to the whole thing. So it's always a group of people to blame, and it would still be a fantastic show, and it would have continued throughout 9 onwards if there had been a lot more team effort going on.
I think 9 would have stayed around longer too if the scripts were of good quality.
If there was a lot more to it, 9 would have stayed a lot longer. Eccleston left of his own accord, so that's definitely a thing as well. That it would have been much more enjoyable if they'd just put the same amount of effort in. Basically, that's really what it comes down to. Is if there was the same amount of effort they went into Old Who, they went into New Who, then we would have a better show. But hey, we're still hoping for it to get better with Chinwell. So we'll see how that goes. Christmas episode in weeks. That's going to be pretty amazing. But for next week for Whoscussion, for part A at least, we're going to be covering Rose and the end of the world. 2 of the most poor episodes I have today. Admittedly, I think Cassandra is probably one of the like
highlights.
Yeah, she's definitely not my favorite villain of New Who, at least of that section of New Who. She's my favorite post-human villain. She's an interesting character study, really, when it comes down to it. So there's that. Also the Forest of Chi as well. That's the thing, is there's so many good parts of things, like Mickey Smith, honestly, is an interesting character study. As much as he annoyed me at first, he's got some interesting character development,
and he does develop.
Yeah, exactly. And even when it really comes down to it, if Jackie Tyler had been the companion instead of Rose Tyler, I think 9 would have had a way better time as well, because she is just way more entertaining to be around.
Yeah, I really can't wait for us to do series 1 and 2, / season 27 and 28, because there is something I really want to talk about in terms of Rose. And before anybody starts flaming us in the comments, I have nothing against the actors. I have something against the characters. Like David Tennant, I'd go gay. I'm not even going to deny that. but I don't like 10 as a Doctor. Alright? So you have to be able to separate the character from the person, and for some reason the internet doesn't know how to do that. Yeah. I'm attacking the fiction, not the reality.
And see, this is where Whoscussion becomes not just us bashing it all the time. Because honestly, I think that 10 is a fine Doctor. It's just his stories have been were terrible. Well, most of them were terrible. You know, if been given the appropriate tools, 10 would have been a fantastic Doctor. Just to study in general, the fact that 10 became so self-obsessed and narcissistic, basically, that he became this. That's a very interesting concept. But it's mainly because, you know, he lost his. He thought that he had destroyed his entire planet, or at least he had at that point.
Yeah, he actually had.
Yeah, that you know that he became this character. So there's a lot to unpack for his character, but it is hidden behind the fact that he had a lot of poor episodes and cartoony things happen. But you know, his time with Donna was some of the best. Donna. You know, some of the best Doctor Who we've had since Survival. So you know.
Yeah, exactly. The Late Crow. Just your thoughts on new and classic, or some of your favorite moments from the classic run.
Well, yeah, just again echoing everything that Harriet Scully just said, but yeah, Classic Who definitely put in a lot more time and effort into the story, more than New Who definitely does. I think New Who seem to focus more on, like a lot of media today, they seem to focus on the demographic and getting the views, or aligning with a certain agenda, whereas Classic Who was just like, right, let's make a good story, and that was kind of all there was to it. Classic Who definitely, some of my favourite episodes, like I love 7. 7's like my fave. 5 was fantastic, and I was glad to be around in Whoscussion for some of his stories.
We're glad to have you.
It was fantastic. Like Caves and was it the Silver Nemesis? No, not Silver Nemesis. That was I've forgotten it. The Cyberman story in 5's run, where Edric died. That was one of my top
Earthshock.
stories. Thank you. I don't know why I said Silver Nemesis. Probably because of Cybermen.
Yeah,
but
and 7's awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, just I really do hope that with the rumored way that Chibnall's going to be writing with a team collaboration, I'm hoping that will see some improvement.
Not only that, so they're going to make the seasons shorter, but the episodes longer.
Yeah,
and I think that's really going to tackle an issue Harriet Scully and I have with the storytelling of New Who.
Absolutely.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just rushing everything and the episode crapping themselves profusely in the third act.
Oh, man. Well, halfway through the second, Marcus.
Good old Marcus.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing, is that like sci-fi is meant to be long. Like, if anyone recently gone and seen Blade Runner 2049, I recommend it, by the way. It's pretty good. I wouldn't say... I won't do a review of it, but, you know, it's good. So... If you notice, it's got like a 2-hour runtime. That's how long a sci-fi movie is supposed to be. Now, we're talking about a TV show, right? So over a season, you know, we have a couple of episodes. So it should get very long. But episodes of New Who are only like an hour long, and max season length.
They're 45 minutes, actually.
Yeah, 45 minutes with ads. And we have... What, how many episodes in a season?
13.
13? That's
12 in some cases, yes.
Yeah.
12 in some cases. And in the later ones, even less. Then we had like half-season ones. So, where is all that story writing going, you know? Like, these are people who are... The writers are paid, you know, for a whole year worth of writing, where any other sci-fi writer writing a whole year's worth of writing would have written way longer than that.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
I'm thinking, like, I'm looking over at my bookcase right now, and I see books that were written in a year that are bigger than my fist in length. You know, like if I put my fist up against it, it's still wider than my fist. That's a year's worth of sci-fi writing. So where is that going? You know, what's happening here?
Especially with the talent they pull.
Exactly.
Like they had Neil Gaiman for a bit, and then they screwed him over, and now he won't come back.
Yeah, and he wrote one of the greatest episodes of that season.
It's so great. It's because he wrote a 2-parter, and they smushed it down to 1, and it sucked.
Yeah.
And I was
which
like,
one was this?
that was the one where they're at the carnival.
Oh, Nightmare in Silver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like that story that story blows, man. The only good part is when 11 versus himself.
Yeah. If that had been stretched properly and had more to it, because they cut so much out of it, it just, it was nothing.
He wrote 2 episodes and they condensed it into 45 minutes. That's bad.
So I think 11 in some ways mirrors 7 in a bit.
Oh, dude, right? Dude.
If they'd really kind of gone down that and explored that more, could have been so better.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm sure that's absolutely what Neil wanted to do, but the head writer didn't let that happen.
Yeah.
So that's basically it. So if Chip Moore does do it closer to that and does do the length option, then we are in for at least probably most likely better quality stories, even if they're not even if they're not as good as Classic Who, so long as they are good, more thought out and at least watchable outside of having to watch it for Whoscussion, then that's a positive for me.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, that's the end for the Late Crow for us. Late Crow, thank you so much for joining us this week.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, it was a pleasure having you. And I hope with our new Who run, and you being a bit freer these days, I'd love to get you in for some 9 and 10 action.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll be keen.
You have to be with us for Day of the Doctor. That's non-negotiable.
I think we should do like a 24-hour live stream for that.
A 24-hour live stream.
That's how long I want to go on about that.
Yeah, I just want to there's so much I need to unpack with that story. Alrighty, guys. Well, we're gonna jump. We're gonna do a quick synopsis of everybody's favorite 30th anniversary. But before that, catch you later, Late Crow.
See ya.
Okay, and with the last little bit of part A for this week, we're covering the best anniversary ever. The 30th. Dimensions in Time. Now, Dimensions in Time... I mean, like, is there really a synopsis for this? The Doctor
ends up in... Yep.
Yeah.
The Doctor ends up in EastEnders.
Yeah.
And the Rani is having a bit of a thing with is the reason for this, and makes for plot reasons. All the Doctors show up. Well, many of the Doctors show up. Well, I guess they do show up. We do see the faces of 2 and 1.
Yeah,
but yeah, they're all supposedly there, and as well as a variety of companions, all who are It's just ridiculous, and if you can find a copy of it, it's a really just fun watch, because it's like 20 minutes long max.
Yeah, including both parts.
Exactly, and it's just a fun time, and it's meant to be an anniversary special. So all the Doctors come back that are alive, all the companions that come back that are alive, and they're not worried about their ages or anything.
No one even cares. They're like, oh, why do you look so different, Doctor? Oh, I look different because the Rani. There you go.
Yeah, and it's just randomly also in EastEnders, so it's fine.
It is.
It's not a big deal. I mean, like, it's obviously like it's probably the least canon of all canon, but it's canon. It's there and it's fine.
We could just say, right? It happens in the land of fiction.
Exactly, the Rani pulls in the land of fiction. It's fine. It makes sense, but it's fine because it's just a short 20-minute story that they can just explain away by just saying that the Rani did it, and they didn't just without explanation makes it better, and it's fun and nice.
I love how like the the companion and the Doctor is going through multiple forms, but they're all one companion. They're just switching between companions.
Yeah. Although there is a time where it's two, where it's Perry and Nissa.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really random. Perry and Nissa.
Yeah. Because they never were together.
Yeah. And I like when Leela appears, and then it is Seven. Seven's like, Leela, what form were you in when you got cloned? I was Romana. Good. There's another Time Lord on the ship. And I'm like, what? What just happened?
Yeah.
This story is interesting because it's the first ever time that they did a Children in Need special.
Yeah.
I think my favorite Children in Need special is definitely Time Crash. Of course. It's so good. And that's irrefutably canon, so I mean that's even better. It's actually in the Time Traveler's Almanac, which is like a canon book produced by BBC.
Oh, there you go.
So I was like, that's awesome. I really wish though that instead we got The Dark Dimension, which was written by Tom Baker. So Tom Baker wrote a 30th anniversary called The Dark Dimension, and it was J&T to the nth degree.
Of course.
And it had the scariest looking version of the Cybermen in it.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, and I was really like, that's something I've always wanted. There's a fan animation of it, of The Dark Dimension. Someone got their hands on the script and did a fan animation, and the fan animation is quite good. I mean, it's not, obviously not studio quality animation, but it's fair enough for a fan funded endeavor. And BBC didn't cease and desist. See Square Enix, that's how you treat your fans. I understand why they didn't. They probably were like looking for something to be a bit more appealing for the 30th anniversary.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that, like, obviously they went with a Children's Day, but for charity, obviously. And this is after they'd gone on prolonged hiatus, right?
Yeah. Yes, because it came out in '93, so it's been off the air for 4 years.
Exactly. So it's not so much as a televised episode as it is just for the kids. Do it for the kids.
Do it for the kids.
So that's why it's like this, and just a fun time instead of being a special. But it really speaks to the whole idea of an anniversary special, really, doesn't it? Where it's not about furthering any plot lines or anything like that. It's about Doctor Who and its legacy, and it's celebrating its entirety of its timeline.
Oh, that's funny that you said that. That feels like there's some other anniversary I've watched in the past, I'd say maybe 4 years. It didn't do that. I can't place my finger on what that anniversary was.
I know, right? But we'll cover that. So it is a really fun time, and it's probably, honestly, like, it's a really good, like, it feels really melancholy when you watch it, and you know that it would have been really melancholy for all those people who had been hoping for it to come back since since Survival, that it was just a ridiculous fun time for that. But it feels good to think, the Doctor's still there. There's still always going to be a Doctor. It's just the show is not on the air anymore. That's what Dimension and Times really shows you. It's always the Doctor and forever.
That's so true. The one thing that I love the most in this is that Ace and Seven are pretty much the main Doctor companion for the story, and man, they are giving it 100,000,000%. It's like they were really hoping this would bring the show back and they'd do another season together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is funny because, like, I believe Sophie was actually, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I'm pretty certain she just had her first kid just before the special. And I'm like, man, that would have been cool. Like, Mummy's on TV with the Doctor. Man, I would have loved that. But like, your mum's that Ace on TV, ain't she? She sure is. That'd been bloody good. But but unfortunately JNT was quite. I believe it was around this time he was quite ill, so it would have been interesting. A JNT list 7 and ace would have really had the same kick.
Could have. I mean, could have given his goodwill to it, given some of that JNT energy.
Yeah, especially and Andrew Cartmel would have been brought back definitely. It would have been pretty good.
So yeah, that's the Dimensions in Time. If the 50th gets to be canon, then the Dimensions in Time gets to be canon. That's basically all I've got to say about
exactly.
it.
All right, guys. Well, with that, we're going to jump into part B. We'll see you all there
On the flip side.